Hi everyone, and welcome back to another fun tutorial with Polka Art Studio. Today, we're creating a charming stand-up recipe holder that fits 5 journals, all made using our Farmhouse Kitchen Premium Kit. This project isn't just beautiful, it's practical too. At the back, there's a handy pocket where you can tuck in extra recipe cards and even a notebook for things like kitchen conversions, shopping lists, and meal planning. Each of the 5 journals is themed by recipe type, like breakfast, dinner, and family favourites, so everything stays organised and easy to find. The Farmhouse Kitchen Premium Kit includes 90 beautifully designed pages, all filled with rustic, cosy charm. Inside, you'll find a lovely mix of decorative papers, journal pages, and practical inserts, perfect for crafting a variety of projects. There's also plenty of fun extras to help you decorate your journals, add personality, and make each recipe feel extra special. Each journal has plenty of space to write, along with pre-designed recipe templates to make it easy to start jotting down your favourite dishes right away. Whether you're saving family recipes or trying new ones, everything stays neat, organised, and beautiful. We've kept this project nice and simple, using just a few basic supplies, so no need to feel overwhelmed. Everything we used is listed in the description box below, but feel free to swap in whatever you have on hand. Make it your own and have fun with it. We've also included a list in the description of everything we printed, along with the paperweights we used, just in case you'd like to follow along exactly the same way. Since the size of the holder depends on how many journals you want to include, we're starting with 5, just like in our example. The kit actually includes 10 pre-designed themed divider pages, so you can create up to 10 journals, each focused on a different recipe category or segment. We've already created 4 of the journals in advance, and we'll be making the 5th one together in this video. They're all made using the same simple method, so once you learn one, you can easily create the rest. Each journal includes 10 pages, but you can always add more if you'd like. We used 5 decorative journal pages, printed double-sided with back paper on the reverse, and 5 recipe pages, each printed with a method page on the back. This gives you a nice mix of space for writing and decorating. To start, simply stack your pages together to form a signature. That's just a little booklet made by folding your pages in half. Make sure they're all lined up neatly before we move on to binding. This is a no-sew journal, which makes it super easy to put together, and even easier to rebind later if you ever want to add more pages or remove some. It's a flexible design that can grow with your recipe collection. To start, we'll create a simple cover using craft cardstock. Just fold the cardstock to form a 0.5-inch spine and make sure it's tall and wide enough to match the journal pages, with just a little extra room around the edges. We left a small border of about 2 to 3 millimeters, which is roughly 1/8 of an inch all the way around to give it a nice, neat look. Now that our cover is taking shape, it's time to decorate it. For this, we're using the right side of one of the divider pages. Just trim it to size and glue it onto the front of the cover. We're not letting anything go to waste. The left side of the divider will be used too. The top note section will become a cute little notebook later on, and the bottom part will be turned into an interior pocket inside the journal. Now we're moving on to decorating the inside of the cover. Choose one of the block-patterned decorative papers, cut it to size and glue it down on the interior side for a clean, finished look. You can leave a small border around the edges, about 1/8 of an inch, to let the craft cardstock frame it nicely. And if you like that vintage touch, try inking the edges before gluing for a soft, worn-in feel. Now it's time to use the pocket piece we saved earlier. We'll start by rounding the corners and inking the edges to give it a soft, finished look. Then, just apply glue to the sides and bottom edge only. This way, it creates a proper pocket where you can tuck in extra notes or recipe cards. To attach the pages inside our cover, we're using some simple thread, nothing fancy needed. Just poke 2 holes in the spine, one about 2 inches from the top and the other 2 inches from the bottom. Then, to make it a bit sturdier and add a nice finish, we're reinforcing the holes with eyelets. To make sure your journal pages line up perfectly with the cover, start by picking one page as a guide. Place it inside the cover, align it carefully, and mark where the holes should go. Then stack it on top of the other pages and poke the 2 holes through all of them at once. This keeps everything neat and even when you bind it. For the next step, we're adding a charm, and we'll make ours using one of the fussy cuts included in the kit. Just choose a design you like and cut it out. To give it some stability, we'll create a backing. Simply trace the shape onto cardstock, cut it out, and glue them together. To bind the pages, take your thread and feed it through both holes from the outside of the cover to the inside. Tie a knot on the inside where the 2 ends meet to hold the pages in place. Then, feed the thread back through to the outside and tie a knot near the top. To make the binding more secure, loop one end under the thread and tie it again. This creates a sturdy base. Next, trim the thread but leave a bit of extra length. This is where we'll hang our charm. Just take your fussy cut image, glue it to the thread backed with the cardstock shape. Now that our journal is complete, the last step is to add a label that matches the recipe section you're creating. Since this one is part of our Recipes from Granny section, we're adding a sweet label that says "Passed down with care," a lovely little tribute to those treasured family favourites. Now that all our journals are finished, it's easy to figure out the size of our stand-up holder. We've made 5 journals, each with a spine of about 0.5 inches, so we need to build a holder that fits them all comfortably. We'll be using 3 pieces of chipboard, 2 identical side panels and 1 spine. For the side panels, we cut them to 15.8 centimeters by 22.5 centimeters. And for the spine, we'll need a piece that's 8.5 centimeters by 22.5 centimeters. Adjust these measurements if needed. To create the case for our holder, start by aligning all 3 chipboard pieces, with the spine in the center and a small gap between each panel. This gap allows the sides to fold easily, so don't skip it. To hold everything together, we'll bind the panels using craft tape. Just place the tape over the gaps, press it down firmly, and your structure will be nice and secure. To form the outer case, we'll follow the same steps as if we were making a journal cover. We're starting by wrapping our chipboard panels in paper to give it a clean, finished look. For a more dramatic and contrasting finish, we're using black cardstock. Since one sheet wasn't quite big enough, we simply glued 3 sheets together at the ends to create a larger wraparound piece. We'll trim the excess paper, leaving about 1.5 inches around all sides. This extra space will make it easier to fold and wrap the edges neatly around the chipboard for a polished finish. Once everything is trimmed and ready, just glue the chipboard panels down, with the spine in the center and the 2 side panels on either side, right in the middle of the paper. Now that the chipboard is glued down, it's time to trim the corners. Cut each corner at a slight angle, leaving a tiny bit of space from the chipboard edge to avoid any gaps. Then, simply fold the side edges inward and glue them down to start wrapping everything neatly. Our base is really starting to take shape now. The last step to bring it all together is to bind the covers, and we'll do that by adding a base piece inside the case. Cut a piece of cardstock that's slightly shorter than your spine and a bit narrower than the width of your pages. This helps the case close flush on all sides without any extra bulk or resistance. In our example, the base piece measures approximately 5.9 inches wide by 3.07 inches tall. To attach the base to the case, we'll first glue it onto a piece of cardstock, using the same colour as the rest of the cover for a cohesive look. Just like before, leave a border around all sides, then trim the corners at an angle to keep everything neat and clean. We'll be using the longer sides of the base to attach it to the inside of the covers. So first, we need to glue down the short edges. Just fold them in and secure them to the cardstock backing. This will leave the long flaps free, ready to be glued to each cover panel. Now, apply glue to one of the long sides of the base and carefully align it with the bottom edge of the back panel. Take your time and make sure it's positioned as straight as possible, then press it down firmly to secure it in place. Next, apply glue to the other long edge of the base. Then, simply close the front cover and press it down so it attaches to the other side of the panel. This helps ensure everything lines up nicely and your holder closes flush and even. To finish off the base, we'll reinforce all the 90-degree angles, and at the same time give everything a nice clean look. For this, cut 4 cardstock strips, 2 long ones to cover the length, and 2 shorter ones to fit the width. Apply glue and place the long strips along each side, one on the left and one on the right. Then do the same with the short ones, but glue them along the bottom edges to cover the front and back. This adds strength and gives your holder a polished, finished edge. Now we're ready to decorate the outside of our case, and this is where the fun really begins. We'll be using a mix of decorative papers and fussy cuts from the kit to bring everything to life. For the front, we've chosen the green block-patterned paper, cut it to size, and used a border punch to add a beautiful decorative edge before gluing it down. On top of our background paper, we're adding one of the decorative pages from the kit, and we're using the entire sheet. This one is actually smaller than the original size because we printed 2 pages per sheet, which gives it that cute scaled-down look, perfect for layering on the front. To finish off the front, we're adding a label holder at the bottom. Inside, we'll place a sweet little label that says, "Made with Love." To attach the holder securely, we'll poke 2 holes through the cover and use brads to fasten it in place. It adds a lovely touch and gives it a more finished, professional feel. Next, we'll add a few more fussy cuts to complete the little scene on the front cover. Just have fun with the placement. Layer them in a way that feels balanced and brings out that cozy farmhouse charm. The closure for our case is a very simple yet charming one. We're using a decorative flower secured to the front with a brad. Around this, we'll wrap a piece of twine or thin wire, which is anchored at the back of the case. Just wrap it around the flower to keep everything closed and secure. A sweet and easy way to hold all your journals in place. To attach the twine, wrap it around the front first to get a feel for how much length you need. Make sure you have enough to go around the flower comfortably before cutting. Then, pass the twine along the back, poke a small hole in the back panel and feed the end through. On the inside, secure it with a piece of masking tape. Don't worry, we'll be covering this later with decorative paper so it won't be visible at all. Now it's time to cover the interior sides of our holder for a clean and finished look. You'll need 2 identical panels, one for the front and one for the back. Cut them to be about 1/8 of an inch smaller on all sides than the chipboard panels. Once they're cut to size, ink the edges for that soft vintage finish and then glue them down neatly. For the interior spine, we'll start by adding a long strip of contrasting paper. You'll notice the strip isn't as wide as the spine, and that's intentional. Later on, we'll be adding 2 more pieces to fully cover the area. These will also help hide the brads we'll be using to attach a metal embellishment on the front. We'll be adding a mini handle, which will give it a lovely finished look, and it'll also serve as a spot to attach a tassel for an extra bit of charm. Now measure and cut another strip to cover the bottom side of the case. Now it's time to decorate the outside spine of our holder. Start by measuring and cutting a strip of decorative paper that's tall enough to cover the full height and width. To decorate the spine, we'll add some lovely fussy cuts for extra charm. We're using 3 circular designs which we'll top with clear domed cabochons to give them a glossy, dimensional look. In between those, we're placing a few other fussy cuts in different shapes to create a balanced, decorative layout that really makes the spine pop. To decorate the back of the holder, we're using one of the decorative papers from the kit, cut to size to fit the panel. We're also layering it with a piece of patterned paper to add contrast and tie the whole design together. We'll also be adding a large gusseted pocket to the back for extra storage. To make it, start with a piece of cardstock. cut it to the width of your panel and as tall as you'd like the pocket to be. Now, to create the gusset, we'll score the cardstock on 3 sides, the bottom and both sides. Start with one score line close to the edge, then score again at 0.5 centimeters, that's about 3/16 of an inch, to create the folding space for the gusset. Then, score once more a bit farther out. This creates a flap that will fold and glue to attach the pocket securely. Once you fold along all the score lines, you'll see the pocket shape come together, roomy and expandable, perfect for tucking in extra recipe cards, notes, or even a small notepad. Next, cut the corners at an angle where the score lines meet. This helps create neat foldable flaps without any bulk. Then, fold the flaps inward, apply glue to them and attach the pocket to the back panel. Give it a good press to make sure it's secure, and just like that, you've got a beautiful expandable pocket ready to hold all sorts of extra goodies. Now that the pocket is in place, we can cover it with decorative paper to match the rest of the design. Just cut a piece to fit, ink the edges if you like, and glue it down. This adds a polished finish and ties everything together beautifully. Inside the pocket, we'll place a mini recipe notebook made from all the note cards we created when cutting the divider pages. To finish them off, we'll round the corners, ink the edges, and then punch 2 holes at the top, evenly spaced for a clean look. We'll hold everything together using binding rings so you can flip through your notes easily and even add more later if needed. The kit also includes some useful information pages, like shopping lists, kitchen inventory sheets, and more handy planner inserts. We'll print those pages and cut them in half, creating a compact format. Then, just like with our note cards, we'll punch 2 holes at the top and use binding rings to hold everything together, making it easy to flip through and keep your kitchen planning organised in one spot. To make a cute cover for our little planner or recipe notes, we'll use 2 panels of cardstock, one for the front and one for the back. We'll decorate them to match the theme, then place them on either side of the stacked pages with the pages sandwiched in between. Once everything's aligned, we'll punch the holes through the covers as well and secure the whole thing with binding rings. Simple, functional, and adorable. And now for the last finishing touch, the handle we mentioned earlier. Decide where you'd like to place it on the front spine, then poke 2 holes to match the handle's hardware. Secure it in place with brads, making sure it's nice and sturdy. Once it's attached, we can go ahead and cover the interior spine with 2 final strips of decorative paper. And that's it. Our stand-up recipe holder is complete. We hope you had as much fun creating it as we did. With its 5 mini journals, pockets, planner pages, and all those charming details, it's the perfect way to keep your favourite recipes beautifully organised. Don't forget, everything we used is listed in the description below. And we'd love to see your version of this project, so be sure to tag us or share it in the comments. Thank you so much for crafting with us today at Polka Art Studio. Until next time, have fun crafting.